Credits are one of the most universal elements of film. They're also one of the most ignored. To most people, the end credits simply signal that it's time to piss off, and the only people who usually care about them are those who worked on the film. Opening credits get a little more attention, but are usually just seen as breathing room to let the stragglers settle in. However, I think this is a bit of a shame, because the credit sequence can be an opportunity to do something clever and creative. Not just as a chance to do something unique and memorable with vision and sound, but even to extend and enrichen upon the film's narrative. Quick warning, I'm going to try and avoid specific spoilers when talking about the end credit examples, mostly talking about the structure and devices that they use, but considering the nature about talking about the ends of movies, you might just want to be careful. I'll put up some time codes just to be safe. So obviously the most common form of credits is text on black, which is not really what I'm talking about here. While text on black does have a certain finality to it, and with a fitting end track, it can sometimes be nice to bask and reflect on the film, the effect you get from this rarely warrants sitting through more than a few seconds of it. It can be memorable on occasion, however. One of the few examples that springs to mind is the opening of Monty Python and the Quoted Too Much. The only extra element it adds is some subtitles, but with just some goofy text accents, nonsensical ramblings, and lower C piano chords, it's just as funny as any other scene in the movie and perfectly sets you up for the goofy, subversive tone of the film. However, as the whole foundation of the bit is playing off the usual tediousness of credits of this nature, even this really can't be used as an advocate for it. A simplistic but often effective alternative to text on black is to hold on the first or final shot. A good example is the end of the director's cut of Brazil. The extreme wide of the dystopian facility, set to the tragic arrangement of the Brazil leitmotif, really just hammers home the isolated and futile tone of the film. This works for opening credits as well. Some examples include the comedically long walk up into focus at the start of Hot Fuzz, and the walk into frame over the shoulder view of the mountains at the start of Yojinbo, both of which give you a sense of the sheer presence the main character possesses. A step above from this is adding more shots and creating a scenery montage. I love a good scenery montage. Setting can be one of the key contributors to a movie's vibe, and a showcase of the locations often works great as an introduction or a conclusion to the overall feel. The opening of Cowboy Bebop knocking on Heaven's Door displays shots of the city and its population, giving a huge sense of personality to both, and making the location for the film feel real and lived in, as well as just having those sick Bebop vibes. Scenery montages seem to be more common for opening credits, but they can work well for end credits also. A good example is Enemy. The ending of the film was a striking one. After about 90 minutes of tense surreal drama, everything seemed to be getting a certain amount of closure, but then it throws a basketball of a curveball at you with its final two shots, reopening many mysteries of the movie and leaving you with a soiled pair of trousers. Smash cut to beautiful sweeping shots of Toronto set to an upbeat 70s pop tune. It's a great use of juxtaposition, with the contrast in tone to the bleakness of the film, all while you're likely trying to piece together what the hell it was you just saw. Has a wonderfully ironic undertone to it, which I think furthers the overall unease of the film more than any other type of credits would have. Other types of montage can be great too. You can show off all the main characters to create personality and a good sense of the film's style, like in Reservoir Dogs, or of some of the objects and props, like the frantic and dirty editing of serial killer notebooks in Seven. Seven also shows another positive about credits, in that they allow you to break from continuity editing and have more creative cuts and visuals, yet still feel tuned to the style of the film. The end credits are also notable, if only for the fact that they scroll upwards rather than downwards. And where you can go even further outside the box in editing is with the visual effects and motion graphics credits. This is a great chance to add some more experimental imagery to the film without detracting from the narrative quality of the rest of the story. The start of the American version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo has some unnerving and sickly 3D objects morphing into strange shapes, showing imagery that foreshadows much of the film. Another example is Skyfall, which also has some great style and foreshadowing imagery to it, but it does go on for way longer than it should, to the point where it even gets annoying. Obviously, I don't mind when credit sequences indulge a little bit, but there does reach a point where they should just really get on with the story. And in fact, some films are so ready to get on with the story that they integrate it with the credits, and just have them act as another scene. I don't mean in a television show kind of way, where they're just there because there's really nowhere else to put them, but ones where they are designed around having the titles in them. A good example is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's a simple but vital scene, of Joel driving home in the rain after his breakup with Clementine, and the raw emotion of the scene shines through. The sharp jump from the happy, tentative start of the relationship, the fact the opening credits are 18 minutes into the movie, and the fact that mark the start of the film's infamous messing with perception and chronology, and the shift from the diegetic melancholy song to the more quirky main theme mid-scene helps give it an enticing vibe. Another example is Gone Girl, which has a very short snippet of a scene at the tail end of a scenery montage. The scene just pretty much follows his morning routine, getting dressed, putting the bins out, etc., but with an undercurrent of unease. You get both a good feel for his general uncomfort in the public eye, and the hints of paranoia and the concealed truths of the film. And you can combine this just another scene mentality with the montage format to create my favorite style of credits, which can be seen with the opening credits of the Castle of Cagliostro. I never know how to fucking pronounce it. After the goofy fun of the bank robbery in the cold open, you'd expect a similarly zany credit scene, but instead is a calm montage of them traveling to the main location. The shots all have the usual tranquility that would become trademark of Ghibli films, and the song that plays over it is rather soft, and even melancholic. I like this sequence because A, it really gives a sense of the distance traveled, as well as the vagabond nature of these two characters, and B, I just really dig the atmosphere. These two scenes in tandem, as well as the fantastic car chase that follows it, really sets up the whole film. A bouncy, cartoony, and adventure-filled heist film, but with an underlying wistfulness and forlorn feel. Ghibli films often have these types of credits, particularly at the end, which is probably an even more fitting place to have them. I really hate it when the ending of something gives off the feeling of that universe just stopping, that nothing else ever happened to those characters or that world ever again. That was it, done, go home, piss off. And these type of denouement credits are a great way to help alleviate that problem. They can give the feeling of life goes on, a hint into the direction of what the character's futures might be, and creating the sense that this was just a smaller story inside of a larger world. I haven't really talked about the actual titles themselves throughout this video, and that's because I don't think that they're the important part. I mean, obviously they're the reason for a credit sequence being there in the first place, and there are a few little tricks and design choices that I am fond of, such as when they're tracked to the motion of the camera, or when they're written on something in the scene, but ultimately I think it's more the structure they help create that's really the focus. They're like the metaphorical bookends of the film, easing you in and out of the story, like transitioning to and from a dream world or a fantasy, and help elevating them to the art form that they are, and I'm kinda just bullshitting you right now, but I do think that they are important. Obviously, the credit sequence shouldn't be the highest priority on a filmmaker's list, and it's not like it's the make it or break it part of a film for me. I just think they can be a great opportunity to extend the cinematic quality of the stories, and note how every example I listed conveyed it all with no dialogue. These days, with anything digitally distributed, the credits being used solely to acknowledge the crew is a bit of an archaic concept, so people need to think of more creative ways of implementing them to justify their existence. The space that credits occupy are important to the structure of a film, even if the credits themselves aren't really all that much. If more films did something creative or story-driven with their credits, then maybe more people will be inclined to actually sit through them. I mean, I already do that if I'm in the theater, but that's more so I can be the last person to leave and not accidentally overhear whatever the middle-aged ladies in front of me or the preteen boys behind me had to say about the film. After the